Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review, spoiler-free, for Cocaine Bear 2023. This movie is rated R with a runtime of an hour and 35 minutes. And as of the recording of this video, we have a Rotten Tomato score for the critics of 71%, the audience of 75%. For those that don't know, this movie inspired by the true story of a drug runner, plane crash, missing cocaine, and the black bear that ate it. This wild thriller finds an oddball group of cops, criminals, tourists, and teens converging in a Georgia forest where a 500-pound apex predator has ingested a staggering amount of cocaine and is gone on a coke-fueled rampage for more blood and blow. This movie is directed by Elizabeth Banks, written by Jimmy Warden. Let's go over the cast as well, real quick. We have Carrie Russell as Sari, who's the mom. Alden Ehrenreich is Eddie of Han Solo fame. O'Shea Jackson Jr. as David. The late, great Ray Liotta as Sid. Christian Coventry as Henry, a young man who is very talented. One of my favorite parts of this movie. Margot Martindale, legend, as Ranger Liz. And Jesse Tyler Ferguson as Peter, who you may know from Modern Family. Um, Overall, I enjoyed this movie. I think it was a fun time. Um, I don't know if it's I think I would have probably ended up maybe watching this at home at some point. I just, because of all the hype of this movie, I wanted to check it out in theaters. But I think it's fine and it's worth waiting. At the, if you really want to go out and watch something at the theater, I think this will be a good time. But also, if you're not in a hurry to watch this, I think whenever it hits streaming or like video on demand, I think you'll have a great time at home. Cocaine Bear is a delightfully campy semi horror movie that is sure to leave the audiences both laughing and cringing. Especially, there's some moments that are like, ugh. Director Elizabeth Banks crafted just a film that it really leans heavily into like a lot of the B movie aesthetic and the little tropes from that, delivering a quirky and fun ride that never really takes itself too seriously, even in big scenes like the ambulance thing that you've seen in the trailers. Like, it's all still very, hyperbole of everything that probably happened during this, real life event. Um, the film has a great look, slick and stylish, throwing it back to that 80s aesthetic that they're trying to recreate, with some really interesting transitions from, like, some footage that maybe looks like it was real, or like into some recreations of old footage into like what the movie looks like. Vivid colors, really dynamic movement sometimes with the camera, especially when it comes to the bear. The bear was really upfront and very personal, really really engaging visually. I think also worth noting the production design. A lot of attention to details that really sell this as what I remember being the 80s. I don't know if it's definitely true to it, but just the look of the characters, the styles, their clothing, like just everything around, even the vehicles, stuff like that. Like, there's definitely a lot that goes into making this movie look like it happened in the 80s, including the music. I think the music is an aspect that there are a few needle drops back and forth that really just hype up that 80s feel and aesthetic. So also, the cast was amazing, but I do want to Christian Coventry as Henry, the little boy that goes out with his friend into the woods. He was probably one of my favorite parts of the film. He's funny, like he's just very good at showing all these different emotions that a kid kind of has going through while all this is happening. So definitely deserves recognition for their performance. Also, I am a big fan of Carrie Russell, who's also fantastic. Now, I think she's not as heavily portrayed in this film as especially towards the beginning of the film. There's definitely a lot, like 30 minutes of this movie. We really get into a lot of setup. So I will say that that part is probably the slowest 30 minutes, but it's kind of like putting all these players into place. So it's definitely well timed and well paced. But I think even getting faster to the action would have been even more interesting for me. But yeah, there are some great comedic moments throughout the film. There's also some really like horror vibes. One of the things that I mentioned in my immediate reaction short was that can we get Elizabeth Banks to direct some kind of like horror slasher, even if it's a campy one, like this time, this same type of vibe. Just really, I wish the movie had either leaned more into the comedic aspect or into the horror aspect. One of like, it's very middle, and sometimes it doesn't reach both sides at the same time. That being said, like I said, there's still some really great moments, and the actors just do a great job selling all these absurd elements of the film. um, so overall, it is an enjoyable ride. It's not a film that'll go down in history as a classic, probably, but I think there's definitely some really fun stuff in there. The script just it feels a bit thin at some points for me, and some of the jokes and the gags can feel a little bit forced. Uh, Also, some of the horror elements are certainly present there, but like I mentioned, they never quite reach that moment of like true terror that some of the audiences may be looking for in a film like this. So yeah, it's definitely a movie that's trying to do a lot, and I think when it accomplishes it, it's really well done. But when it has some shortcomings, I think they're quite noticeable. But overall, fun, entertaining, and it's sure to delight. I think everyone that I was with at the theater had a good time, because they were looking for just a campy film to have a good time with. I think anybody going into Cocaine Bear, they know what they're in for, and I think that's the honesty that the movie brings into that is really the payoff, because the movie's very open about what it is. So if you go in there expecting something else, that's on you as an audience member. So although it may not go down as a classic, it's definitely worth checking out for its quirky style, fun performances, and just the sheer absurdity of the premise. And then, of course, because it was Ray Liotta's last film, so I think if you're a Liotta fan, from many, many classics. Also, if you're a Kay Russell fan, I mean, I really enjoy seeing Kay Russell in different roles because she's fantastic. So, and yeah, it was a good time. So, let me know what you thought about this film down in the comments. And as always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember, share, like, subscribe, leave us a comment, and stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here on the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye bye.